I'm Roger Singleton, and we are at the Candidates Forum for tonight. We'll have a live broadcast for that. We're gonna turn it over to our moderator. I'm gonna mess that word up forever, you know that.
Yes.
Yes, we're gonna turn it over to Lori Crocker. She's gonna start. We'll start with the mayor candidates. I'm gonna turn it over to her now.
Good evening. The local candidates forum this evening is coming to you from the commissioners hearing. Good evening. The local candidates forum this evening is coming to you from the commissioners hearing room at the Lake County Courthouse. We want to thank Melanie Lasley for assisting us with the venue. Historically, the forum has had an audience, but due to the pandemic, COVID, there will be no audience this evening, and the candidates will be wearing their masks except when they are talking. We'd like now to acknowledge the great cooperation from KORV 93.5, Marcy Wade and Roger Singleton for carrying the forum live so that we can all become better informed citizens and exercise our right to vote on November 3rd. The Lake County Examiner will post a video of the forum for its Facebook and YouTube pages probably tomorrow afternoon. That would be October 14th in the afternoon. I personally want to thank Kevin Winter for being here from the Examiner and assisting us with public notification of this event. We need to make sure that everybody in our area now is turning off their cell phones. So as the nation celebrates the 100th year of the 19th Amendment, which gave women the right to vote, a committee came together to organize this local informational forum. Questions were generated by the nonpartisan committee. The committee does not endorse any candidate nor political party. The forum committee believes that an informed citizenry is vital to the 21st century and the development and progress of the town of Lakeview. I am Lori Noel Crocker, and I will serve as moderator this evening, and we welcome all of you to the forum. Would you please be so kind at home, if you would like to, because you are our listening audience, to stand with us while we do the Pledge of Allegiance. And would you please say it with us? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So let us begin. Welcome to the mayoral candidates, the incumbent Ray Turner and Darwin Johnson. The format is for each candidate to be given 2 minutes for an introduction, followed by 1 minute responses to the questions. Our timer is Debbie Watts. The questions will focus on 5 areas. 1, the structure of the town council. 2, some financial questions. 3, ordinances. 4, ethics. And 5, some citizen concerns. So thank you both for your desire to serve our community. And now let us begin. So Ray, we'll start with you on your 2-minute introduction of yourself. Running for mayor of town of Lakeview.
Thank you, Lori. I was born and raised in Lakeview. I've lived here all my life. I graduated in 1973. I married my wife here. We have 3 kids, 9 grandkids. I retired in 2016 after 42 and a half years in the timber industry. And that I was a volunteer firefighter for 30 years and served as president. I was on the disaster unit for 14 years, also served as president, and on the police reserve for 23 years and served as president in 2 terms. I've coached Little League Baseball for 8 years and Babe Ruth for 3 years. I enjoy being the mayor, and it's been challenging at times, but I am willing to give it another term, and I would appreciate if everybody would vote for me. I've also do a lot of volunteer work as well and especially in the Elks Lodge, where I served as the exalted ruler for 4 terms. And I've been their scholarship chairman now for 15 years. And I enjoy doing that, and I love working with kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. And now, Darwin, let's hear your opening introduction.
Great, thanks, Lori. Thanks, Deb, also for keeping our time plug. Roger and Kevin, thank you both. And that's out there listening, this is a great opportunity to get to know each of us a little better. I know Ray, our mayor, has done a great job, and I applaud him for the job he's done for the last 4 years. Myself, I born and raised Oregonian, born in Forest Grove and raised in Newburgh, Dundee area until my junior year of high school, in which I moved to Burns. A lot of my family was moving out there, and I thought that would be a great opportunity for me to finish out my high school years and then be able to further my development and career. After graduating from Burns High School in 1999, I went on a 2-year church mission to Colorado, and after returning home, attended Portland Community College for a semester, and was accepted into BYU Idaho in Rexburg, and spent 3.5 years there, and then moved to Harney County and was able to finish up my degree while actually on the job as the assistant planner for Harney County. After about 5 years, decided to take my family to this wonderful town in Lakeview, and we've been here almost 10 years. So it's been a wonderful time. My wife, Candace, and I have 10 beautiful children. I won't name them all, that might take up too much time, but many of you know them. They've been involved with the sports programs here, of which have been coach, referee, official. I've had a long desire to serve in government. My degree is in political science with a minor in business, which I believe gives me definitely the experience, the knowledge of how a town and community is supposed to run. And I've served now 9 years on town councils, started in Burns and then 5 years here. And I just love to serve, and I'm so willing and able to help in any way I can. And if I have your vote, I appreciate it, and I'll go to work for you. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll start with some questions regarding the structure of the town council. Ray, could you briefly explain the structure of the town council and what is the mayor's role?
Okay, you have the mayor and 4 council. We elect a president every year, or every fourth year. And then as far as the mayor goes, he is in charge of running the meetings and make sure everything is run right, and working with the council as well as working with our department heads and our town engineer and our city manager.
Thank you. Continuing on with that question, Darwin, why does the town council have a president? And how is the president chosen? What are the president's responsibilities? And does the position rotate year after year?
Yes, thank you, Lori. We do have a town president that is elected by the town council. The mayor makes that appointment in a town council meeting that happens at the first meeting of the year. It can rotate, and it is by our charter to be voted on each year. I've had the great privilege for the last 2 years to serve in this role, and appreciate Ray giving me that opportunity. And thankfully, Ray's had great attendance at our meetings and has been able to make sure when he wasn't going to attend, I was able to fill in for him. And that's the role of the president, just to make sure that in the absence of the mayor, that the meetings continue to move forward. And the council president can also call a special meeting. The mayor can also do that, or 2 councilors. So just like any of the town councilors, we're to work with those department heads, work with especially our town manager. We're not to micromanage any individual department. We work directly with the town manager.
Thank you. The next question is the same for both of you. Previously, town council meetings were held in the evenings. Currently, the meetings are held at 4:00 p.m. in your opinion, is that the most effective time for our community?
We've unfortunately, not everybody gets off work at 4 o'clock. And so we were trying to do one meeting, a month in the evenings. And we didn't get any more people in the evening time than we did during the day. So we decided to go back and just keep everything at 4 o'clock. And we seem to get a pretty good crowd in there, some days and some days not. But, we were trying different options, so who knows, maybe we can go back and try it again. Especially in the winter time when, people aren't out doing anything.
Okay, Darwin, the same question. In your opinion, is that the most effective time, 4 o'clock PM, for our community?
So I think that it has worked. When people have some issue that is pressing for them, that's something that's near and dear to their hearts, something that's close to them, maybe a decision that we're making, to make sure to get there. And that is a sacrifice. And so we recognize that sacrifice. Mayor's right. We did take about 4 or 5 months where we had at least one meeting in the evening and got, similar attendance. It was probably largely due to the fact that we didn't have any hot topics. I think we would have had a whole lot more people at our meetings, which we appreciate, to have people explain to us how they feel about certain issues. So the meeting schedule, I think, can and ought to be adjusted, and during special meetings, we certainly do that. For the rezone, for example, we held that meeting after 4 o'clock, and it was held in the Memorial Hall below us, so that we could make sure that there was enough space, even during COVID, to make sure people had the opportunity to be heard. And so it's a great opportunity to meet, and our council rules require that we meet at least once a month, but we can meet more as needed.
Darwin, the next question actually is for both of you too. What is the criteria for calling a special meeting?
Yeah, criteria is, as I said, the mayor, the council president, or 2 councilors, any of those 3 options, working with the manager can set a special meeting. If you have a decision or a document that may need to be signed and move forward quickly, to move financing along or something like that, we can call a special meeting. It's important that we do so. You'll see the board of commissioners do that often in their meetings. And it's something we don't want to do too much. We want to try to keep things within the agenda and make sure we've got things taken care of in a timely manner. And as we do so, there should be less and less need for special meetings. But certainly the criteria is simply if there's something that needs to be done, we're going to take care of it. And there's special meetings, emergency meetings, certainly as the case may require.
Ray, continuing on with that, do you agree with how you call a special meeting, and is a quorum always needed?
Yes, a quorum is always needed. Where we have 4 council and the mayor, you need 3 people there in order to hold a meeting. And the mayor is basically a tie vote. He breaks the tie. And yes, I agree with Darwin. Your 2 council can call it, I can call it, the town manager can actually call it. And so it, working with her, gives me a heads up every day when I go in. And whether if I need to call a special meeting or if we need to have a meeting that week.
But you always need to have a quorum.
But we always have to have a quorum.
Okay.
Otherwise, it is not a declared meeting.
How would you, Ray, how would you define a conflict of interest? And could you give me an example?
A conflict of interest would be like, if I owned a house and I wanted to sell it and bring it in, and the council would decide whether if I could change the zone on it or whatever, but where it's my house, I can't vote, because then it would be a conflict of interest. I try to stay out of that kind of stuff. And also, if I'm working with an employee and that there happens to be an issue with the employee, goes before the council, I can't vote on that issue, I have to stay out of it.
Okay, thank you. Darwin, the same question. How would you define a conflict of interest? And then
Sure.
could you give an example, please?
Yeah, I want to just point out that the mayor actually isn't just for tie votes. You vote all the time. Sometimes it does come down to a tie, but when we call for the vote, it can be at the same time as those in favor or those against, and that's to be a tie. Conflict of interest is really simple. If you're going to benefit financially or have a chance of benefiting financially yourself or a family member, that's when a conflict of interest exists. There's other reasons, other terms we'll get into probably tonight, but conflict of interest is simply if there's a financial benefit to yourself. And the example that Ray gave about a rezone is definitely something that would qualify potentially under that. I see myself in this, if elected as mayor, not having any conflict of interest. That'll be something that we'll probably get into more specifics on, but conflict of interest is for personal gain.
Okay, if the mayor is the tiebreaker, Ray, and the mayor has a conflict of interest, who breaks the tie?
That's a tricky one there, because if the mayor can't break the tie and I'm in conflict of interest, then it would have to be brought back to the council and they'd have to rediscuss it and then take another vote. But that's the only way I could see it being done.
Okay, do you agree, Darwin?
Well, so partially I agree, because you can also, declare if you have a potential conflict of interest at the meeting. You may not even be allowed, asked to participate at all in the proceedings, so you may not be there. The council president may have to step forward and run the meeting and make sure that as you go through the process that it's handled correctly. Repeat part of your question, I think.
Who breaks the tie?
Yeah, so again, if the mayor is allowed to continue in the process, that can also be determined by the council if the mayor is allowed to vote. Not always would you have to step out of the vote.
Well, I think that goes with the next question, Darwin. Who or what determines whether a council member has a conflict of interest?
First off, the councilor themselves or the mayor. It could be determined by the council themselves to see if there's too great of a reason that they should step away from the decision-making process. No town councilor or mayor, council president should put themselves in that process, in that chance that they would have that conflict. If you have a conflict, you should step away from the process.
Okay, thank you. Each council member serves as a liaison to several different community groups or organizations. How do you determine which councilor is assigned to each group or organization? And do the assignments rotate? Ray, we'll start with you.
Okay, we go over all of the liaison positions, and basically, I go, do all of them. I can do all of them, but we give them out to each counselor, and they choose which one that they want to go in, and we try to rotate them every year to where not everybody's doing the same job all the time. And it seems to work pretty well that way. Everybody's doing something different. But like I say, as myself, I can do every one of them, but it takes time. And so I just pick a certain few that I feel is important and stick with those.
Okay, and that'll be that question's coming up next. Darwin, do you favor this way of doing it? How do you determine which counselor is assigned to each group? You yourself, having been a counselor.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, I actually had requested that we do a rotation. I actually had kind of broken out the liaison positions, committee positions, in a format that every counselor would have an opportunity in 4 years to cover all the different departments and committees that are in the community, so that they have a better understanding and don't get just so focused on one area. So Ray's right in that the mayor does make those appointments, and it happens at the beginning of the year. It can happen at any time if something needs to be changed. But the important part is that the council is involved in that decision-making process, so that the mayor doesn't have too much control there.
Okay, and then what currently are your liaison assignments?
Yeah, I have been involved with the planning for a long time. I was over the swimming pool, and thankfully the pool's open this year. Ray made a good vote. I appreciated his vote to keep it open for this year, and kind of had Nikki Taylor help a lot with that. Sometimes the summers can get busy, and just as Mayor mentioned before, that you get spread out in the different responsibilities that you have. Mayor can be involved in all those liaison positions, and that's important for him to have a broad understanding of each of the departments, but also serve with the ag farm. The shooting range has been one that I've been involved with a little bit too. Finally became a member. Went up there last weekend with the boys. It was a great time. Encourage people to get out to it.
Okay, thank you. And Ray, what are your liaison assignments currently?
Currently, my liaison assignments are with the Prison Advisory Committee, and I do, work on the budget as well, but I've been with the fire department a lot, and I help out with the sheriffs, but I'm go through a lot of them, and if I feel that there needs some extra help there, I jump right in there and do it. But like Darwin said, rotate them around. Everybody's not doing the same thing, so I try not to do the same things every year either.
Okay, thank you. Do you believe all department heads, for example, maintenance and 911, law enforcement and so forth, do you believe that they should attend all the town meetings? And if not, why not? That's a question for both of you. Darwin?
Sure. Yeah, so we can have a sergeant at arms at our meeting. Obviously, now that the town has our police department handled through the sheriff's department, when special circumstances arise, it would be appropriate to ask somebody from the sheriff's department to show up and be at our meetings. I'm sure we could have the state, state police show up if they wanted to help out as well. But certainly, they don't need to be at every meeting. They definitely got more important things to do than hear us ramble on about, maybe the budget or a certain topic that may not be of interest to them and hasn't got anybody too excited. So.
Okay, Ray, same question.
Well, not, usually department heads give their reports on the first meeting of the month. Basically, the ones that are there at most of the meetings, or all of them, would be our public works director and our town engineer. But our other department heads, just once a month is all, they give us their reports. And I don't think they need to be at every meeting.
Okay, all right, thank you. What are the liabilities, if any, for town council or members? Darwin?
Liability. If you're stepping outside of council meeting, if you're getting involved too much with hands-on day-to-day stuff that the town manager has authority over, I think that could personally get you, in a position that might put you outside of your council or protection. As council, you vote together. I mean, we're setting the budget. We're hiring a manager. We're adopting ordinances and updating ordinances or policies. But outside of that, the councilors themselves, the mayor included, does not get into the day-to-day activities. The mayor is the political head of the town, and the councilors fall in line with that as well, and make sure that they are just being well informed about the issues at hand, and then they're not overstepping their bounds.
Okay, thanks. Ray, do you have anything to add to that about what are the liabilities, if any, for town council members?
the council and the mayor should conduct themselves outside of the council meeting as well as inside the council meetings and not go beyond their scope, but also not to go out and do something that they shouldn't be doing and then put the town in liability. And I feel that, if they stay in that scope with what they're doing in the council, because they represent the town and they have to look good for the public. And to go out and do something that they shouldn't be doing is not good for us.
Okay, thank you. Ray, how many hours a week do you devote to the position of mayor? And how many out-of-town meetings do you attend as mayor?
Out-of-town meetings, I have a SCOAG meeting, SCOAC meeting, sometimes Lake of Oregon City meetings. Mayor's conference is once a year, and I'm gone for about 4 days there. So there's a lot of hours there, but I'm at council meetings, special meetings. I'm over in the courthouse here. I actually put in an average of 8 hours a day. It's basically a full-time job for me. Being retired, I had the time to do it.
Thank you. Darwin, if elected to the mayoral position, how will you prioritize the obligations of the mayor versus your other commitments?
Thanks, Laura, for the question. I know I've had a lot of concerned citizens, especially those outside of town limits, who appreciate the work I've done as the county planning director. I know that this is something that people wonder about a lot, and for good reason. The mayor saying he spends 8 hours a day is amazing to me. You're definitely not getting paid enough, Ray. But I have always been a town councilor that will go over the information given to us. I sit down with Michelle as needed, but as mayor, I would devote the time that's necessary to the position and make sure that I'm well informed, but also well informing the public. I as a councilor probably spend at least 1 hour a day right now. That's I think a good time spent. If it takes 2, it'd be 2. But I manage my time very well at the county, and no one is shortchanged at all. And I think a lot of the duties that I have overlap in some ways. And so, like one of my other liaison positions was Chip at the hospital meetings, and so I'm able to get to those things out of town as well.
Okay, thank you. And Ray, do you have anything to add about how you prioritize your obligations of mayor versus your other commitments?
Well, I'm in town council an average of 4 to 5 times a day, town hall, and I meet with Michelle, and with her keeping me up to date with everything going on, and then what grants that she's putting in for, and I come up with a few more sometimes, but that job there is right now is my number 1 job, and because being retired, I have time to do all that, and that's my priority, is to go into town hall and stay caught up on everything that's going on in the town and through the town hall.
Thank you. Now I'd like to turn to some financial questions. Now, in addition to the town manager, or in place of the town manager, what is your position on hiring a qualified financial manager?
I would, my partake on that is if we do hire a financial officer, I would like someone with at least 8 years' experience in the financial business, such as working in a tax office or something like that, and has a lot of budgeting experience.
Okay, thank you. Darwin, the same question. What is your position on hiring a qualified town manager? Now, that's in addition to the town manager.
So I think your question, Ray, was about a finance manager?
Yeah, what is your position on hiring a qualified
Financial manager.
financial manager?
I think this is an interesting question because we currently have a town financial clerk. So to assume otherwise is not correct, and so that shouldn't even be a question that we're even talking about tonight. We have one. We're working through some things, and hopefully we'll have somebody back in that position. If for some reason that didn't work out, yeah, we want somebody that's qualified, but we have someone and hopefully everything will get worked out in a timely manner and we can move forward on that. As for town manager though, I've in Burns was part of the council that went through.
Well, the question isn't about town manager. It was
You
just-
mentioned it earlier.
No, I said in addition to.
Okay.
I mean, the town manager is a.
Okay, in addition to the town
Yeah,
manager themselves,
Yeah,
so,
so we'll go on, are you satisfied that the town's finances are managed professionally at the present?
so we haven't had a town financial clerk in that seat for about five months, she's on paid administrative leave. So we're not gonna get into those details. We have been informed on the budget, on how it's, presented to us in June for adoption. We knew that there would be some changes to it. There have been those changes that have come up as necessary that need to be adopted by resolution. We will continue to move forward on that. That's something that's been a struggle with the new town manager. She's doing a great job, and we appointed prior Tana to fill that role that was done primarily by Roberta Vanderwall, our prior town manager. She was on the job training, and when you in a small town, we all know that we have to work with what we have, and so as we continue to work with our employees and help them succeed by giving them the training and allowing them to get to trainings, we'll have a well-run town.
Okay, thank you. And Ray, continuing on with that, how often is a financial report generated? Is it monthly or quarterly?
I believe our financial reports are quarterly.
It's quarterly. And as a council member, do you see and have an opportunity to review and question each report?
We haven't, we keep a copy of it. We try and get updated copies as she's working on it and stuff. And then, it comes up in some of our meetings. And, I think that, I would like to see, updated, a little more often.
Okay, thank you. And the same question, Darwin. How often do you see a financial report?
So each month we see accounts payable, and so what we haven't had for the 5 years I've been on the council is a monthly ledger, or at least showing exactly how much money's been spent in each department. That's something that we're working towards. We're gonna get it soon. One of the past practices was that the town councilors would take turns going in and reviewing all payments, that any of the receipts, making sure that there was a checks and balances there. That practice went away when Roberta took over, and it's something that we suggested. I was suggested in one way because I want us all to look at the information, not just one counselor, and sometimes it would fall on the same counselor for multiple months. And we need to be transparent with our budget. We need to all understand it. That's why every meeting, if you watch any of our meetings and see me at meetings, I have the budget with me. I know the budget and know how to stay within that budget.
Well, that follows into the next question. How is the budget developed, and how involved have you been in the budgeting process?
Yeah, thank you. So the budget is adopted annually, and it's submitted to the state by July 1st, and we do so by ordinance. There's always monies that we have to adopt individually, like state revenue sharing. The town council advertises for a budget committee. We will then appoint a budget committee and a budget chair while we go over the budget, which is held in open meetings so that folks can see that the budget is changing which way or the other, so that we can make sure everybody understands how the town is using these funds that are the town's funds.
Okay, thank you. Ray, can you tell us more about an ongoing financial investigation of the town of Lakeview? What is the status of the investigation report? who is doing the investigation? And is there a town official that's a liaison contact person for the investigators? And then what funds are paying for that investigation?
I don't really believe that I can actually comment on any investigations that's going on right now because they're still ongoing.
Okay, do you know what funds are paying for the investigation?
I believe we have a line item that has funds in it.
Okay, Darwin, the same thing. Can you say anything about the ongoing financial investigation? Who's doing it, what the status of it is? And is there a town official that is the liaison contact person? Or what funds are paying for it?
I wish I had time to write down all those. There's a lot in that question. First, we have an audit every year. And our auditors have changed. We used to use Oster's, now we're using Umpqua. Similar to what the school is doing, I believe the county may have also went with Umpqua. So when Michelle got on board as our new town manager roughly a year ago, there was a lot that was less desirable in how our budget looked. And the reports that I have from her is that you know, there's always going to be eyes on our budget, but she has talked with our financial folks well enough to know that we have enough money for what we're allocated to projects, and so those will continue to move forward in a timely manner and stay within budget. When things are outside of the budget, and again, we adopt a resolution, but the investigations will all be, you know, those reports will be public records and available.
Okay, thank you. What percentage of the marijuana and lodging taxes come back to the town? And then how does the town allocate the marijuana tax? If 70% of the lodging tax is dedicated to tourism, to what is the other 30% allocated?
So by law, the lodging tax is 70-30 split. So 30% can be absorbed into the general fund and has no specific earmark that it has to go towards. 70% of that lodging tax is to be spent on tourism-related activities. So to date, we have funded many projects. There have been requests that have come in. We adopted council policy that would say on a quarterly manner we would review any requests that came in and analyze those and then move forward with those requests and see which ones we should fund. Now, we also had decided that 50% of those funds would get reserved for long-term projects. You
mean 50% of the 30%?
50% of the 70%.
50% of the 30%, of the
70%.
Of the
So roughly
70%.
35%, which is that tax generates roughly 70,000. The marijuana tax we've got it in our budget. It's divvied out amongst the different departments that are needing it within our budget. We just got a report from Michelle Perry just a couple of weeks ago, maybe now, that gave us a good breakdown of where this money is coming in and how much is left. And so we will soon, probably because of how much is in there, we'll look to see where we can spend it most appropriately.
Thank you. Ray, would you like to comment on that question?
Yeah, on the marijuana tax, the state tax is 17%, and we're allowed to add on to that. The maximum we could add was 3%. We have done that. So that 3% is what we get, but what the state takes in and kicks back to us can be used for law enforcement and drug classes and so forth, rehab. And we haven't used any of it that I know of yet.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, we're going to move into ordinances now. Have you thoroughly read the charter and the ordinances for the town of Lakeview, Darwin?
Yeah.
And should some sections be revised, updated, and or expanded?
Yeah, so our charter was adopted by vote November 9th of 2010, went effective in 2011, and it would require a vote of the people to make major amendments to that. by ordinance. All of our ordinances probably ought to be looked at, something I would love to make sure. We just got a printout that ended about 5 years ago, and so there's a gap between what's been done in the last few years. But we need to look at those. Ordinance is no good unless you can enforce it. And so, but the law is the law, and so we'll get into that review, and I look forward to it.
Thank you. Ray, what is your opinion of the enforcement of the ordinances or lack of enforcement?
What I would, a lack of enforcement, we don't have a code enforcement officer, and I would love to have one. And I know the county's been talking about one also. But I would like to see some of these enforced more, especially cleaning up their yards and stuff. And some people just don't think that it's a necessary thing, but when your yard looks worse than the dump does, then I think you better get it cleaned up. That's one way of putting it. But,
Okay, thank you.
yeah.
Thank you. Darwin, should the town employ a code enforcement officer? What is your opinion on that?
Definitely not on our own. Before, when Ray Sims was town manager, I know the town council was brought letters from him to make sure that people were cleaning out their properties, and we got reports from him and Roberta. It didn't seem to transition well to her, and Michelle certainly hasn't had the time to take that on, that other responsibility. So we had it as part of our budget, around $10,000, which was certainly not enough for a full-time code enforcement, or even a part-time. I mean, at the county level, I see the struggles with this. We had a full-time person for a little while, and that ended, and we haven't been able to get that back yet. So I would work with the county to see if we can get our resources together to make this happen. The community needs it, not just Lakeview, but certainly our urban growth boundary as well, and then throughout the county.
I'd like to add to that. Our administrative assistant has been sending out letters to people to clean up their yards and stuff. She has been going around and writing the addresses down and then sending them letters and so forth. So she's been trying to do some of it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Darwin, animal control such as dogs, deer, skunks, as a result of people feeding feral cats outside and so forth, it's a huge problem. The deer population was discussed by the town council, but no action was taken, so the problem still exists. What should be done about the deer population, do you think, and its threat to the humans and domestic animals?
Okay, so deer population, we actually did take action. We adopted an ordinance back in, I would believe it was around April.
Okay,
That was to go effective, not in the normal 30 days, but July 1st. And we were supposed to talk about it in the budget, and somehow it eluded all of us because we were going to try to figure out how we would work on enforcing those who are feeding the deer as being the number one problem that's recognized by ODF&W, causing deer to continue to become our resident deer, right? And so as we work with our partners, those other agencies like ODF&W, we can draft additional ordinances that will then allow us to move forward. Everyone has to use caution, right? I mean, we know that there are cougars, bears, just beyond our reach, at the edge of town limits here, and we got to protect ourselves. We certainly pass that ordinance for the safety of kids and anyone that comes on a deer. Be careful out there. We will continue to move forward though with that ordinance, and again, it needs to be tied into the nuisance program.
do you have anything to add to that, Ray?
When we passed that ordinance, it was, people were upset because some people were feeding the deer and they were upset about that. They were upset because they couldn't feed the deer. But we had to do something because it got to where the deer were not even afraid of young kids. And the first thing I could see is some young kid get hurt. So we really worked on that and worked with Fish and Game. Fish and Game will come in And if you do have a deer that is such a nuisance and a threat, they will come in and dispatch it,
Thank you.
or they will have law enforcement dispatch it.
Okay, thank
And
you.
as far as, the dog catching and stuff, you mentioned that. We used to have a dog catcher, and the county and city worked together with that, but it was also had federal funding. And when the federal funding went out, neither agency had the money to continue. And, the town of Lakeview just recently purchased Rhonda Dial, a large dog trap to catch some of these dogs. So we've been working with her as well.
Well, thank you. Ray has said that the town council has been placing ads in the local paper urging people to clean up their properties and so forth. In the years past, there was an ordinance on keeping up property and a penalty of non-compliance. Is this ordinance still in effect? And if not, would you support a new ordinance?
We got a report from our town recorder, Don, where he just our last meeting, or maybe the meeting before, which said that she'd reviewed our ordinance and it was a really good ordinance, actually. So we just need to enforce our ordinances. Just like the other ordinances that we have, they ought to be well known by the councilors. I think, every couple of years we get new councilors on. I think for either Ray or myself, whoever remains, it might just be, us that's left on this council. One of us will be left on this council, and hopefully, Sandy will be on there as well, if she gets the confidence of the voters as well. So we need to have the councilors have a copy of all these ordinances, even the planning documents. When we are in a public meeting, as we were for a rezone, the town councilors should be well versed, or at least have an idea of where to go in the ordinance. And that training can happen with our department heads that have authority over those ordinances, so we are well informed.
Thank you so much. Now, sidewalks in Lakeview need to be repaired or replaced. Is there an ordinance to take care of this? And if not, how would you address that problem?
We do have a small budget that has the ability to loan people money to take care of some sidewalks. But primarily, if it's on your property, it's your responsibility. And similar to the water lines that are bad, that are outdated in most cases. Reminder, we're still flushing pipes for the next couple of days, so beware of your water. But definitely, the more we can beautify our community and make this, as our tower says, greatest, community in the nation. I mean, we can continue to have a safe environment, and landowners just have to take pride in their properties, and sidewalks is definitely that remaining piece that needs to be taken care of in life.
Thanks. Ray, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I've, in my rounds out and about, I make note of some sidewalks that are bad. There was one in front of the Elks that the tree pushed up, so I got a hold of our public works director. They came in, they took the tree out because it was a nuisance, and the sidewalk, they took it out and replaced the sidewalk. So we're slowly getting some of these worked on, but hopefully, if we can get grants, then we can replace some of these sidewalks that need to be replaced.
Good, thank you. Lakeview has many buildings which are empty and not being maintained. Squatters are occupying these buildings and further contribute to their deterioration. How would you suggest the town deal with this, Darwin?
So, first, work with our partners. LCP's done a great job with the Alger. There's an opportunity for anyone who would like right now to pick up the old Roundup Tavern. Certainly been available since we got back on the foreclosure list, the county did. Town may actually want to look at picking that up. Something maybe we should have a town council work session on, which I'm sure the county would look into it. But we definitely need to take care of the people squatting. I know homelessness, those who may think I was against that, that's absolutely not the case. It needs to be put in the right location according to our zoning ordinance. So, we can continue to work with owners of properties and try to make sure that they're development opportunities are well known and understood, so that they don't get themselves into a situation where they've maybe had a wrong impression of what they could do with their properties. And then our law enforcement can certainly take care of those that are squatting, and we can try to get them the services that they need. And unfortunately, sometimes we just don't have them.
Thank you. Ray, do you agree with that, or do you have anything else to suggest?
No,
on
I
that?
agree, and I would, it's really hard trying to get new businesses in here, and a lot of it's because of our housing, we don't have any place for people to, and a lot of the places that was up for sale have been sold. So, I would love to see more new businesses come in and take over some of these empty buildings and get them cleaned up and remodeled and make Lakeview look good again.
Well, do you think are absentee landlords contributing to the problem?
I do, because they're not here, they don't see what's going on, and they don't have any idea of what's happened to their buildings when they're gone out of town.
Do you have anything to add to that, Darwin, or about absentee landlords?
So they may be causing, or have a role to play that would help. For one, we have a housing shortage, right? And that's why our rents are so high, or for a lot of people. And if we can, simply, if we want to put a task force out there, we could to go analyze which ones are empty, and then send a quick letter to them and say, hey, we've got opportunities here. And there are grants, like Ray mentioned, that ought to be gone after by even those landowners to improve their properties.
Thank you. To your knowledge, Ray, are homeless and or displaced persons being relocated to Lakeview? And what do you see as the town's responsibility for dealing with this issue?
Boy, I've heard stories that, people have, they pick up hitchhikers or whatever, bring them in. I've heard that there is people out of California that's brought people up here because they don't want them in their town. And this has happened here time and time before, and just about every town does the same thing. And I'm sure maybe Lakeview's done the same to other places, take them, ship them out, but there has to be something done that to put where we can put these people, and I just don't know how to address this except find housing, of some sort.
Darwin, to your knowledge, are homeless and or displaced persons being relocated to Lakeview? And what do you see as the town's responsibility for dealing with this issue? Thank you, Ray.
Yeah, so to my knowledge, no, I don't know that people are coming here or being sent here, which does happen in other communities. Certainly, larger cities have a bigger problem with this than thankfully Lakeview does. But there, as many of you have noticed that are watching tonight or that are out there, have seen that there's a great deal of transients that have been coming through, whether they're homeless or not, or whether they're just getting to their next place that they're going to reside. That happens often. Just the other day, I had someone show up to my house and thought it was a place of business and was going to walk right in, which is not uncommon. So we're aware of that at our house, being just right across from Burger Queen. So it is something that we as a community ought to work with our other agencies. Certainly the hospital, and I know there was a group that were meeting and trying to work with McGarvis to try to get a rezone so that we could try to address this problem with up to 18 units at that location. And there are other opportunities that we need to be looking at, and I applaud those that are pushing that forward. It just needs to be done in the right locations.
The next two questions are regarding law enforcement. The agreement between the town and county regarding law enforcement has a deadline for rediscussion. What is that deadline, and what is your opinion about the current arrangement? And do you think that Lakeview should have its own police department back? Ray?
Right now, I believe it's I think it's a 4-year contract with them, or actually a yearly contract, if the sheriff's department doesn't wanna stay with it, or we don't wanna, or we wanna take them back, we have to give them 90 days notice. I believe the sheriff's department, in my opinion, have done a good job. And yeah, I would like to see our police department back, because I spent 23 years over there in that police department, and I miss it. But, I think that, it's gonna take a little while, and with the finances the way they are, it's gonna take, a little more money than what we're paying out to the county right now.
Thank you. Darwin, do you have something you'd like to add with that?
Yeah, this is an interesting topic because, it talks about really the core value of what we want. Certainly we want safety for our citizens, and they're paying for extra services and the added tax of being town residents. But we also had a real struggle for the town manager having a police department and a lot of turnover in that department. And before coming here in Burns, we had a joint chief for Burns and Hines, and it worked out well. They have went away from that now, and I didn't follow up with them to know why. But we, and I believe Ray voted along with this to dissolve our police department. And it was the most appropriate thing at that time. Now, if the town council wants to undertake that huge task of rebuilding that force, that's something that we, as a town council, would need to work with our town manager and the sheriff's department to see how that could work out. Now, the CARES Act has provided, new resources to our community through the way of grants, and we need to continue to support what we have. I'm in favor of consolidating efforts when possible, so that we don't have, government waste, so we can provide better services
Thank you so much. Now I'd like to turn to some questions regarding ethical behavior. Darwin, a few years ago, there was a posting on the website regarding ethical behavior of town officials. It seems to have disappeared off of the website. Does the town of Lakeview have a code of ethics or guidelines for ethical behavior?
We have council rules. Ethics is something that's, kind of a standalone topic that isn't necessarily written completely. The word ethics probably isn't found in our charter or in our council rules, but certainly ethics are an important thing. We need to stand up and be moral people. We need to, show that we can be trusted and have integrity. I mean, we're going to do what we say and mean it, and then go forth and just do the best we can to serve. Like I said, I'm here to serve in any way I can. And I love government, I love being able to work in it, and I find no ethical conflict of interest or anything in my professional life or career that would say otherwise. I'm happy with all the choices I've made, and I know I'm going to continue to do a good job in either this role or another role that may come available.
Thank you. Ray, do you have any knowledge about that posting that was on the website regarding ethical behavior for town officials? And do you have any idea where you can find a code of ethics? If there is a code of ethics, where is it located? Have you read it?
You could probably I'm sure you get it from the Ethics Commission, would be the first place to start. And I did not see that post, but it's like I said earlier, you conduct yourself in the meetings, you're the same as you do the same out in public. You're out there, you're representing the town, you're representing the public, you should act accordingly.
Okay, Darwin, thank you. How would or should the council enforce a code of ethics? Does the council police itself?
So you should first police yourself, and then the council, if there's something that came up, could have to remove a counselor from, their position for a number of different reasons. Missing meetings would be one of those reasons, but ethically speaking, there are trainings. I'm glad you brought that up, Ray. Some of the best trainings new counselors will receive are through the League of Oregon cities and small rural cities that meet together and areas within our reach. We had a meeting of this in Klamath not that long ago, a couple of years when we had the new counselors come on. And it was a great meeting. It's a good refresher. It's something that you can always, make sure you're walking the line correctly.
We live in the 21st century now where we're surrounded by all the media that there is. As a town council member, what are your thoughts about using your cell phone while a public meeting is in session?
Should be avoided as much as possible. Cell phones obviously are a computer, right? So you may be pulling up a number of different things. If it's distracting from the meeting, you shouldn't do it. But a lot of times, I know when I've been in meetings, whether it's a town council or school board or others, I may be looking at past emails on a specific topic, so I have the information in front of me. A lot of times when we're talking about budget stuff, it's the calculator function on your phone. So certainly silence them, and they shouldn't be a disruption to the meeting. But if you're able to continue to multitask and to work appropriately and to be engaged in the discussion and to be certainly more aware of the topic at hand, so that the best informed decision can be made. That's extremely important. So I'm not opposed to it if it's not a distraction, if it's certainly being used for the topic being discussed.
Thanks. Ray, is there a council policy that addresses the use of cell phones during official meetings? And if not, should there be?
I don't remember seeing one on as far as cell phones. I will tell you that when I went to the mayor's conference last year, I sat in on a seminar, and the attorney for the League of Oregon Cities talked about the use of cell phones in meetings. And League of Oregon Cities does not recommend you do that, because your cell phone then becomes public record.
Oh, okay. Thank you. How should a well-functioning town council use social media? Darwin?
Social media is something that the town has been using. It's been doing a great job, I think, of our Facebook page, certainly for air quality purposes. Don does a great job of making sure, if it's a red day or something like that. And the more we use social media, the better, really. I mean, we're here to be transparent, to make sure that people are well informed of what's going on in our community, and to then get involved. I mean, this community continues to be great when people get involved and just make sure they're aware of what's going on. And we have the opportunity to update our website and make it even better than it was before. I like seeing the little bios of town councilors in the past, and that ought to be front and center and able to be shown the wonderful community that we live in, and the successes that we're having ought to be displayed and shared with the community as soon as they happen, and again to help the council know when decisions are being made, to give them the information that they may not have themselves.
Ray, several town council members have been reported as saying that they had official OSHA notification of persons who were alleged to have turned Howard's drugs in, and that they publicly shared that list. As a mayor, did you ever say that you had that list, and did you ever share the names of people supposedly listed in that notification?
I have not seen a list. I've heard there was a list, but I have no idea who had it, and it was never shared to me.
Okay,
So,
thank you. Darwin, do you know anything?
Definitely not shared the list or even known anybody's name that's on that list, although we're in a small town and people have heard names. I have never thrown anyone on the bus or said anything like that. But, although it's been said that I have. So I've sat down with some of those people and said, look, that absolutely isn't the case. My wife has been involved with the GoFundMe page for Howard's, and thankfully that got some media attention also from Medford and Klamath stations, and it met the goal on that GoFundMe page. So it's hopefully we'll be back to a sense of normalcy soon. Obviously it's election year. It's always interesting things that happen in election year. We never expected some of the things that have been said about myself even. I will always not be spreading rumors. I'm here to make sure that I represent myself in a way that that I want to be treated myself, and I appreciate those in our community that are trying to look out for other people and make sure we're all safe.
Thank you. Ray, have you done any repairs or remodeling at your home recently, or have you had a contractor work for you? People are often confused about when doing remodeling. Can you explain when a permit is required? Do you go to the town or the county planning department? So my first question in that is, have you had any repairs or remodeling at your home recently?
Yes, I did. Last year, I hired Thornton Builders to put in a sidewalk and retaining wall for me and some steps. And he took care of I believe he took care of all the permits, and I do believe you go through the planning to get all these permits. I'm planning on having some electrical work done with a contractor. And in my opinion, I believe the contractors are the ones who get all the permit to do the work.
So you think that they follow the procedures then?
I believe they do.
Okay, Darwin, same question. Have you done any repairs or remodeling at your home recently, or have you had a contractor work for you? And as you know, a lot of people are confused about that remodeling. So can you explain when a permit is required, and where do you go? The town or the county planning?
So if a permit's required, the town should sign off on it if it's a new construction, something that's new home, or I believe in Ray's case that shouldn't have required a permit. I'm not part of the building department, although I work near them. I was educating myself recently on some of the permits that may have been needed. Because I do plan to finally rent out the apartment that above our garage, and we're pulling those permits. I've got them pulled. I'm happy to say that they're working with contractors on the ones that are required, and that's a learning experience. I think that I'm happy to report that I have learned. So the fact is that we all as landowners need to be improving our properties, and there are definitely a lot of permits that are not needed for simple repairs, minor repairs. If you're gonna do a major repair, definitely check with the building official to get exact details on what is needed.
And so you both are saying then that you have, when remodeling, you have followed these procedures.
Oh, I have.
Okay.
I've got all permits in my hand.
All right, thank you. All right, let's move to citizens' concerns. Darwin, are you in favor of territory annexation within the urban growth boundary? And if so, what territory?
So yeah, thanks, Lori. This has been something I've talked a lot about as a counselor over the years, and seem to not get a whole lot of momentum behind it. The town, when we provide water and sewer, we ought to be taking care of our own citizens by making sure that those that are using those services are paying the same rate, the same amount into the services that they're getting. And I'm all for annexations when it makes sense. And when we've got some businesses in and some businesses out, although they're both maybe using our services, then they need to be annexed. And there is a process behind that. That is hard in a small town to swallow. Any more taxes is a lot. Lakeview has a very high tax rate. And yet, we can see that we need to improve in a lot of areas to provide better services for folks. And I believe that if we get this next town council moving forward, we can get the annexations done that need to be done, that have been long awaited.
Ray, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I agree. The other thing is that some people that are not annexed into the city, that want the city water and sewer, then they need to be annexed in. And the biggest thing that we've done so far since I've been mayor is when we annexed in for Red Rock.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this question next was for both of you. With housing so scarce, are you willing to consider more multi-housing developments in Lakeview? And do you think the town should consider perhaps exploring public-private partnerships?
I would go for multi-family housing. for the simple fact is, you're not gonna get business industries in here when there is no housing. They don't wanna come here. If you've got a private sector that wants to come in and put in a housing development, and they have the property to do it, hey, let's get it done. You know, I'm all for it, because we definitely need housing bad.
Okay, thank you. Darwin, what is your opinion?
Yeah, so some of our, housing needs analysis that was done and our grant awarded, through DLCD to look at the housing needs of Lakeview and Paisley happened at the same time. Eco Northwest was a grant, awarder on that and able to work forward on that housing needs analysis. It showed that we did lack in a variety of housing. And so, we have a minimal amount of multifamily, meaning minimal amount of tax lots. We have two major tax lots that are the bulk of our multifamily. The other multifamily is already developed. But what I think people don't fully understand is that through our own ordinance, through the residential zone, you can have up to 3 units in a residential lot, provided you have enough square footage on that lot to make that improvement. So, that we can have infill and we can certainly upzone a lot of these properties if we need to, but the fact is that in a small community, we've got to have the jobs to be able to see that development happen, and then once we have jobs like Red Rock, you'll see a change in the housing, and hopefully it will bring more contractors, I guess, to build those houses that will be needed.
Well, Lakeview Lockers closed down. The owners wanted to redevelop the property, which was zoned commercial. The owners filed a request for rezoning to a multifamily dwelling. Several neighbors objected, and the request went through several hearings. Now, during this process, the town's legal counsel advised the council that there was no legal basis for denying the request. Also, the developer's lawyer stated that the property owners would sue the town if the law were not followed. According to official records, all of the members of the planning committee and the town council voted unanimously in favor of the zoning change at the first meeting. In subsequent meetings, the planning commission voted against the zone change while the town council voted for it. Now, being aware of the financial consequences if the rezoning were not approved, Darwin, how did you vote and what was your rationale for your vote?
Yeah, so I originally voted in favor, and that was with what I consider to be misinformation. The notice didn't go out correctly, and so we re-noticed, and a lot of the reason why it went through the planning commission the way it did originally is because those that should have got notice and been aware of the process weren't informed. And so what appeared to the town council at that first meeting before we adopted the ordinance, this is back in June, appeared to be something that everybody was in support of. When everyone seems to be in support of something, it's hard to try to say no. And so when we got advice from our legal counsel that we re-noticed and everything was handled correctly, then we reheard the decision after the plan commission then made a decision, a tough decision for them of denying the recommendation to come before the town council. And then at that point, we held another meeting in the Memorial Hall, and I'm gonna go over my time on this, so bear with me here. But we had to look more closely. And I'd say that we should have probably done that first. I admitted that I'd kind of overlooked the staff report in the original staff report. And again, I say, if there's opposition, a lot of times you're gonna say, hey, this sounds like a good thing moving forward. I didn't have any full idea of to what extent they wanted to put a lot of people down there. Originally, it was a 3 to 4 kind of thing. And so I definitely changed my vote on that, because when I looked at the staff report, I found at least 3 reasons why we should deny the application. The big one being its proximity to commercial in the downtown, neither of which it meets. And so I was able to easily say that this doesn't meet the standards of our own zoning ordinance. When you talk about future use, which isn't part of a rezone application, but when it got brought to us, it was talked about as a future use. And so we talked about that as well. And the max they could go is 3 units on the size of lot that is. So I was against that location, but not certainly against.
Thank you. Ray, being aware of the financial consequences if the rezoning were not approved, how did you vote and what was your rationale for your vote?
I voted for it, and the reason why is because it was just a zone change. That doesn't mean what they want to put in there is gonna go in there. There could be something different. Financially, I'm on the advice of our legal counsel that if we didn't do it, that the state would come in and do it anyway. And that there was possibly a lawsuit that would be filed against us for discrimination. And I wasn't gonna let that happen. I thought more about it. And I thought, the town doesn't need to be sued, and the people don't need to have to fight this. And I agree, not everybody got letters. They should have all, throughout the next 2 or 3 blocks around, should have been notified. And that didn't happen. But like I said, just because it was rezoned doesn't mean what they want to put in is gonna go in, because it's gotta go back through all the steps again.
Thank you all so much. Now, we're almost finished, but because of the water problem in Lakeview, a committee has been formed to address that issue. Have you attended the committee meetings and what is your involvement?
The committee meetings on the water that we've had so far, when I first ran in 2016, that was one of the first things I wanted was a water filter system. And so I worked with Daryl and Roberta at the time, and they started putting in for grants. We did get awarded a $9.3 million grant. I got the call from Congressman Walden's office on that. And that then everything was going good. They wanted more information. That was the USDA. We gave them more information, then COVID hit. And when COVID hit, that pushed everything back. Now they're short-staffed, so we're still behind. I was hoping to get this started this summer, but it doesn't look like it's gonna happen. We're just waiting on the USDA for the answers.
Okay, the same question. What, have you attended the committee meetings and what is your involvement, Darwin?
Yeah, so as a town councilor, yes, I attended those meetings. Daryl Anderson's staff put together the water master plan. That was a grant awarded project, $25,000, I believe, and then the project was going to come in for a water treatment plant and all the works that go with it, near $10 million. The grant, I believe, was only actually half that, so the rest of it is going to be debt financed, and then that because of our low rate in our water bills will have to be changed, and people need to understand that. If we want better water quality, we're going to have to pay for it, and it'll be a long-term loan and debt that the town goes into, which will increase your water bill probably close to $20 is the latest number that we're being told, and so part of it, yes, through a grant, that's excellent, and I applaud those that worked on those grants to do so. The town council's been aware of this all moving forward, and we need to continue to make the public aware of it, because I don't know if there's maybe a silent majority out there that says, yes, we have bad water, but we don't want to increase, especially those that are on a fixed income, of adding $20 more a year at $240 or $20 a month at roughly $240 a year, and also. The problem, again, often lies within, from the yoke, the meter yoke, that part where you actually know where your water line is, coming from the town, then to your house and the interior pipes in your house. We may not solve this problem, and it's gonna cost people $20 a month more.
Thank
and
you.
More expensive.
Now, as a candidate, what has been your outreach to our businesses and community members in the last 6 months, Darwin?
Yeah, so I definitely, go with my wife on date night as often as I can, and that's usually Friday nights. Mm-hmm. And so we try to rotate through all the restaurants at least. Businesses, working with contractors, see them, pretty regularly, obviously at the counter. And so I have those contacts that are important. a lot of our business owners, especially those who are expanding, such as Pacific Pine or Emery's now, which was Cornerstone, they're continuing to expand, and they're not yet annexed. There may be a chance that that'll get accomplished, but they, I've had the privilege of reviewing their plans and on the planning side, and then helping them move forward. So, I applaud our businesses for working and trying to keep their folks safe during this time. But Red Rock, back when that first was getting talked about, that was a planning file in the county. Then later we annexed it, but I was involved in that and have been on monthly meetings on those
Thanks.
as well.
Ray, as mayor, what has been your outreach to our businesses and community members in the last 6 months?
Oh, I'm out, being retired gives me an opportunity to be out more. And I'm out, visiting, I'd say most of the businesses here and, seeing how things are going. My wife and I, we go out to dinner, or go out to breakfast, we hit different restaurants. I talk with the owners a lot of times, see how things are going, how business is doing. And, I just stayed focused, talking with people a lot.
I appreciate your answers and everything. I want to end this section on something very positive, because then we're going to take a short break while we clean the area, and then the town council candidates will come in. But what positives do you currently see in Lakeview? What positives do you currently see in Lakeview?
I think when Red Rock gets up and running and stuff, I think you're gonna see Lakeview grow a little bit, and that's what I'm shooting for, is to get more people in here. But also, one of the positives that I'm working on right now is another grocery store.
Okay, what positives, Darwin? We want to end on a positive note for our community.
Well, we added the number back in April. We had another baby girl. Thankfully, got number 2 girl. So, the positive is this is very born and raised here. This is the best place to raise a family. I would say Lakeview has been the most enjoyable place for me that I've ever been in, and I say that wholeheartedly. Not about this position. The schools are amazing. Our teachers, our faculty. A lot of our buildings are needing some TLC, but we continue to work with what we have, and I love to see that people are, forego, maybe certain things to continue to support, our youth programs. I know our businesses are doing a great job, always fundraising and helping in those fundraisings. Roger can see me going, man, yeah, we do all those sponsors and this community is by far the best I've ever lived in.
Well, I really appreciate, and I know I've gone about 20 minutes over where I thought I was going to go with you guys, but we talked about so many problems, and we, this committee that came together, do thank both of you so much for your desire to serve our community. And so, best of luck to you both, and while we sanitize the area and everything, we're gonna take a quick break with KORV, and then we'll be right back within 5 or 10 minutes with the town council candidates. So thank you very much, and I'll see you shortly.